Today's video should put to rest the myth that revolvers never malfunction. Hi everyone, welcome to today's lesson here at Active Self-Protection. I'm awful glad the revolver malfunctioned today. I am your host, John Correa.
And I'm your Saturday co-host, Stephanie Widener. Today's video is out of Brazil.
MagTech is the only pistol or rifle ammo I use on the range, and I recommend them highly. I've seen their manufacturing and quality control firsthand, and it's incredible, which is why it always performs reliably and accurately. They are operating at max capacity and cranking out rounds for you to keep your skills sharp. Pick up some MagTech at your local ammo retailer or get it shipped fast at luckygunner.com.
To set this one up, the lady at the bottom of the screen is married to the guy in the ball cap, and they are clearly having some kind of significant domestic. I've posted news stories as links in the description that have a little bit more, but not a ton. And you can see the guy standing next to the husband, and he's kind of sitting there defending or whatever. It's not gonna help any here, as this dude is gonna pull a revolver and pull the trigger 4 times and it not go off once. The guy pulls him away. It does go off one time there while she sits there and cowers. He's gonna beat her over the head with that revolver and then get pushed out of the store. He apparently pressed the trigger about 7 or 8 times. The gun went off once and it went off into the air. Thankfully, she was not harmed by that. The news story says that he was arrested for this and is facing charges. I don't know that she was very badly hurt by getting hit by the gun. That's how this one ends. Man, thank God somebody stepped in there and tried to help that lady. Ladies, you can't count on that though. You better take care of yourself. I know plenty of people are gonna say, why didn't she leave? Why didn't she get out of there before this? This is her fault. But I think that that doesn't really recognize the true complicated nature of domestic violence. And so my heart for all people in a violent relationship is for you to get the help you need. And that goes both ways. That's not a purely woman thing, although, you know, it does tend to happen that way a lot more because of the power differentials. But I think just recognizing, well, why didn't she just get out? Or why didn't she just dump this guy? Is really not understanding the complexities of the issue, Steph.
Yeah, I think so often people don't realize that the abuse and the setting up for the abuse starts so long before the physical encounters, and it so often starts by someone just stepping on some lines and leaving you kind of unsure about what's going on until you're so far backed into a corner. I mean, look at everything about this woman's demeanor, her body language and posture. She's just completely defeated and remains in this posture throughout this entire encounter. She's just, I don't think you could have a better picture of resigned and given up. In addition to that, statistics show that the most dangerous time for someone in a domestic situation is when they leave, immediately after leaving. So when we ask questions like, why doesn't she just leave? What some people aren't considering is the fact that that actually ups the danger quotient quite a bit for a significant amount of time. And if they don't have enough infrastructure put into place, they're putting themselves at greater risk by leaving rather than staying. And again, there's that calculus that at some point it is more dangerous to stay. I just think it's kind of dangerous to tread into trying to make that decision for someone else, if that makes sense, John?
It does make sense. And I also want to say here, you notice we have at least 2 bystanders in this particular case. And their body language tells me they know this is wrong. They know there's bad things coming here, and maybe they're just trying to mediate a little bit. Okay, they're having an argument, fine, whatever. If you guys want to holler at each other, as long as it doesn't get physical, I'm not gonna do anything. And I think that's admirable. Hey, I'm gonna be here to make sure things don't get physical. I also would recognize that emotional abuse is abuse just as much as physical abuse.
Yeah, absolutely. Another thing that I think that this shows really well is I think there's a kind of this mythology that domestic violence, and that stems from someone just kind of getting angry and losing control. This to me is not a picture of someone overly emotional and losing control. He seems to be making decisions very well. He seems to, at some level, be calm. And we've seen that over and over in the domestic situations that have been caught on tape. In many cases, it's not someone with just poor emotional regulation. It's someone that's making really significant and serious choices to do exactly what they're doing. And I find that really troubling. And so if you're in that type of situation or trying to help someone that's in that type of situation, I think that's an important factor to recognize, that they're very predatory in some ways, not just losing control in an emotional relationship.
I also want to say here The fact that he's willing to pull a gun and literally straight murder her, this tells me this is not the first time he's been physically violent with her. I'll guarantee you that. This is almost never happens in a vacuum like this. And I don't care what else in the world has happened. Nothing that she could possibly have done justifies anything like this. Remember, adults use words. It's simple as that. And if she has done something evil to him, separate from her, get away from her, whatever. I'm not saying she couldn't be crazy and he be offended or be, a person who's been abused himself, but nothing justifies this, right? We do not do this. We do not justify this. This is evil behavior on every level.
And if it was the first time, that still makes it no less serious for you to consider getting away from and getting out of. If you decide you want to work on that relationship later, after some significant safety parameters have been put into place to protect you, to protect any children that are involved, that is the most important thing. And these things, so often we see them escalate into something like this. I doubt she anticipated him pulling a gun on her and shooting her in public today, and yet here we are. And it's difficult to anticipate how bad it can get. So just be really wise in dealing with these types of situations, whether you're the one that's in it or whether you're the one trying to help someone that's in it.
Now, when he decides to go, all the friends in the world that are around aren't going to necessarily stop him here. Action beats reaction, and of course, this right here is as chilling as I could possibly imagine. Thank God that the gun malfunctioned in this particular case. Now, again, not going to be able to stop her or him from doing that to her in that second. But thankfully, this gun malfunctions. And I know a lot of people say, well, revolvers are, they're super reliable and they never malfunction. And so even if they do, just pull the trigger again, and it's always ammo related. The reality is revolvers do tolerate neglect very well, but they don't tolerate abuse. And there are some really crappy revolvers out there that don't work very well. And I know some people are going to make a joke because this is in Brazil, and so they're going to say this is Taurus. In my opinion, Taurus has done a pretty good job of trying to up their quality control over the last few years. But you got an older one, yeah, it's going to be a piece of crap. You got an old Rossi revolver, it's going to be a piece of crap. If you stay to the big brands, Smith & Wesson, Colt, Ruger, it'll probably be okay. But it is a myth that says that a revolver does not malfunction.
Absolutely is. And I want to point out that our third-party defender here, I really admire that he was clearly reading the situation and trying to, you could tell by this person's body language that they were ready for something. They're trying to stay involved and be ready to anticipate what's happening. One thing I think they could have noticed was there was a significant target glance right before the gun was pulled. And that could have given him a few tenths of a second head start in all of this. I don't think, like you said, action beats reaction. I don't think you're going to be able to stop the shot from going off. But in defensive encounters that are seconds long, tenths of a seconds can make a huge difference. So if you can get a tenth of a second heads up by some target glancing or change in behaviors like that, you should do it.
I do love that he gets into action. He grabs a hold of the guy, and then, it's the fifth trigger pull, apparently, that the gun finally goes off. 5 trigger pulls in order to get a bang. And I want to notice this, that he grabs a hold of the whole man. So we always talk about in the 5Ds plus 1, we want to dominate the gun, the hand with the gun, the arm with the gun, and then the man with the gun. And this is why. That gun is swinging off into the wild blue yonder, endangering everyone. And so thankfully he didn't hit anything here. And doing something, just being willing to get involved and get engaged probably saved this woman's life. But make sure that you don't leave the gun out there in space.
Yeah, I think this person, rather than taking time to try to figure out why is this happening, what's happening, had just already decided and decided that his lines in the sand were, if something physical happens, something violent starts, I am stepping in. I feel like he'd already made that decision and was ready to go. I think potentially we could look at the wife or girlfriend, the woman here, and realize that she continues to leave herself in kind of a vulnerable position. While I understand that and can understand from an emotional point of view that she's really shutting down and probably doing what has successfully worked for her in the past to protect herself, she does have some opportunity here to either get to a better position or to join in the fight and save her own life.
I also think here that's probably an emotional fitness issue, that she's probably been beaten down enough times and emotionally abused enough and taught that there's nothing I can do when he gets violent, that the more I resist, the worse it gets. And so if I just sit here, it'll pass better and I'll be hurt less. And this is part of abuse, right? And so anybody who's in that situation, please get some therapy, get some counseling, get some support around you, do what you can. And if you know somebody in those situations, I just can't tell you enough, have empathy, okay? Be willing to sit with them. It usually takes about 3 times of significant physical assault before a woman caught in abuse like this is willing to get out. Don't have statistics for men because they don't keep them very much, because macho culture keeps men from reporting this kind of stuff. But again, this is an emotional issue, and emotional fitness says, oh no, this guy's trying to kill me. Nothing could be worse than him being in that situation, so I gotta do something here in order to get myself to a safer condition. And she just doesn't. She gets frozen here. And I don't want to blame her for anything that happens here. I want to say this is a lesson for all of us, that this is what an emotional abuse can do to somebody. So he's going to come back around, try to shoot at her again, and then beat her over the head with the gun while she just sits there. So again, all his desire is here is to punish her for whatever it is that she has done. And this, to me, does showcase the evil of domestic abuse. This is absolutely evil in every respect. There is literally nothing for this. I do want to say in the comments, whether in the Asp Unlimited app, which is a million times better, God bless all of you in the Asp Unlimited app, on Asp Lite tier, or even on YouTube, I'll ban you forthwith if you start blaming this woman or making jokes about her. I absolutely will, and we will be all over this like a chicken on a June bug, because this is the kind of evil that exists in our world.
I mean, take a minute and think about what kind of person could not only see a woman that ostensibly they love cowering before them like that, and have been dragged away and stopped from whatever outburst he was having, and yet your response to that is violence. To me, that's just like you said, it's a whole nother level of evil. And if I agree with John, I really want you to be careful about not trying to say she's wrong for having this emotional reaction. I totally understand it. It's perfectly normal to freeze up, and this has probably been quite successful in defending her life in the past. What I would say, if this is you, or if this is a message that you can get to someone that you care about, start working on that emotional fitness. Understand that you are worth fiercely protecting and defending, and try to begin to work your way through that, because that is a step that you can take right now to cover your asp.